but AI could be a powerful reflection to us in order to become more human, not less human. To me, AI is a call for us to rehumanize. And that is the tough work that we are grappling with now and working on now. That's the work before us. And we get to face it. We can run from it. We can bury our heads in the sand, or we can face it with as much ease, love, and grace as possible. And that's what I recommend we do.
Welcome to the AI Grapple podcast. My name is Kate VanderVoort, founder and CEO of Social Mediology and the AI Success Lab. Today on the AI Grapple, I am joined by Jeff Burningham, tech entrepreneur, VC, and author of the last book written by a human. Jeff has built and invested in companies worth over $5 billion, run for governor of Utah, and taught entrepreneurship to thousands. But in this episode, we go far beyond business. We explore what happens when machines grow smarter than us and how we as humans can grow wise in response. From conscious capitalism to rehumanizing leadership, Jeff brings a rare mix of bold vision, spiritual depth, and practical wisdom. Let's dive right into this powerful conversation. Hello, Jeff, and welcome to the podcast.
Kate, it's good to be with you.
Now, listen, Jeff, why don't we get started with you giving us a bit about your background and how you've gotten to where you are before we dive into some of the curly questions.
That sounds great. Yeah, I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started a tech company as an undergrad here at university in the United States and built a tech company, sold it to a publicly traded firm, a NASDAQ listed firm in my mid to late 20s, and then started several other businesses, real estate private equity, actually during the Great Recession in the real estate market here in the United States. And that was a scary time, of course. There was so much uncertainty. It's interesting. I grew my first tech company during the dot-com explosion too in 2001. So I like those uncertain times. There's a lot of disruption. It's hard, but it also kind of creates a lot of opportunity. So that firm was called Peak Capital Partners. We started very slow. I started it with two of my best buddies and have owned $5 to $10 billion of real estate assets over the years. So grew that quite significantly after not almost surviving the first couple of years. Then launched a venture fund. There's a very fast growing tech ecosystem here in Utah. It's called the Silicon Slopes because we have the best skiing in the world, Kate, of course. So started a venture fund here along the Silicon Slopes, the first institutional venture fund. And we've invested in several hundred, about 200 up and coming fast tech startups. I started that about 15 years ago or so. About 5 years ago, I lost my mind and ran for the governor, ran to be the governor here in the state of Utah and lost that race during COVID. So the most critical months of that race were March, April, May, and June of 2020. And we all know what was happening then. I was running against two very well-known political candidates. They're good friends and good guys, kind of career politicians. I was an outsider, an entrepreneur, and lost during COVID into that summer of 2020. And that's really kind of leads us to the story of where I am now. I learned that I had, for the first time, some space in my adult life. And I learned that with time and space, anything can be created. So as I dove back into my venture work, I'd been running for governor for about 18 months or so. That's a lifetime in technology, as you know. So I dove back into the latest tech trends and what was happening. And it was all about crypto and DeFi and the metaverse and, of course, AI. And that's when I began in earnest writing a book about AI and humanity. And that book will come out August 19th of 2025. And it's called The Last Book Written by a Human: Becoming Wise in the Age of AI. So that's my kind of winding, interesting career path: entrepreneurship, a little bit of politics, now some art and writing. It's been very challenging, but also very rewarding and fun. So.
Well, we're certainly in an age of uncertainty. So I'm really looking forward to this conversation, given you've experienced this kind of uncertainty before with technology. I think we'll have some great things to talk about. When you mentioned the US and COVID, I was on one of the last flights from the US coming back to Australia and was the only person in business class flying back to Australia. And it was
How did that feel?
It was
weird,
huh? But it was very surreal. And, you know, none of us really knew what was coming next, but I was very grateful to have made it back home to my kids, given how everything unfolded after that.
A private flight to Australia. That's
I
awesome.
I know. It was amazing. You know, every travel since then's been a bit downhill.
Yeah, I bet.
So, Jeff, your book, it's a very provocative title, The Last Book Written by a Human. So tell us a bit more about why you wrote that book and what does it really say about the moment that we're at, you know, with AI right now?
Yeah, I never planned to be an author. That was never on the roadmap. I haven't considered myself a writer, although I do now. And so I wrote the book because I felt like I had to. I felt compelled to write the book. Again, that summer of 2020, as I dove into technology and into AI specifically, I was interested and I made several AI investments as a venture and angel investor. But what struck me much more than that was the impact that I thought was going to have on humanity, on what I would almost say the spiritual implications of AI, what it means to be human in an age of intelligent machines. So I wrote the book because it's kind of a long story. I tell a little bit about it, but I had these mystical experiences, actually one in Tibet, one in India, several others, where I just felt like I had to write this book and almost felt like it was kind of coming through me in a way. So that's why I wrote it. I think the title, two thoughts on that: a micro thought and a macro thought. Number one, the micro thought for myself. I wrote this book in response to the uncertainty in the world and what I would like to read. It's like if I had a new life or was just born into this world, I'm 48 years old, or just picked up, what would I want to know about what was happening in, 2020 and 2025? What would I want to know personally? So I wrote it in that regard. Secondly, the title, I'm a little concerned about humanity. The book is the bull case for AI. I mean, the good that it can do in the world. I think it can be the greatest tool of transformation that humanity has ever seen. On the flip side of that, Kate, and I'm sure you feel some of this, it could be a real unwinding. It could be destructive. If you take the division that is in our world right now and dump the power of AI onto it, I'm concerned about what this says for our future. And as a father of four, and actually a grandfather of one, so I'm a grandpa, I have a grandson, a young grandson, I'm concerned about that. And so I wanted to write a book that I hope would help people reflect on bringing the best of who we are, the best of our humanity, to the development of AI so that it can help humanity flourish and not not be destructive.
Well, and that's why I started this podcast, for exactly the same reasons, is I wanted to have
cool.
conversations like this that really help me, people I'm speaking with, but everybody to really think more consciously about, because it feels like a real inflection point or a real transition. And a lot of people liken it to the Industrial Revolution or electricity or other technology leaps, but this is different, and it's happening at a pace, I think, that we haven't experienced before. And it doesn't just touch one aspect of, say, industry or one aspect of our lives, like the washing machine in our home. It touches every aspect. So I absolutely feel that too. And as you were speaking, I was getting goosebumps, and I'm not always sure that they're good goosebumps. Sometimes it's the hair on the back of our neck. But it's a conversation I have a lot with people, which is, I think a lot of people are being lazy and just outsourcing their work and really replacing themselves with AI. And I think that's going to have some implications. But for people who are really using AI to be more, to enhance their knowledge, to think more, then we've got a potential to go in the other direction. And then we've got it being used for health and education and doing all these amazing things like you talk about. And then we've got the deep fakes and the ways that AI can be used in really malicious or negative ways. How do you have that conversation or frame that conversation with people so that they don't run and go rock in the corner terrified about the future? Or how do you approach it so that people are thinking more consciously about this?
Yeah, it's a great question. And that's really what the book is about, is becoming more conscious as humans. What I say in the book and the thought that I've had for the last 4 or 5 years, AI, I call it a cosmic mirror to humanity. It's really just a reflection, at least right now, of who we are and what we are. So a mirror can be a powerful and terrifying thing. It can be terrifying to see, as a 48-year-old guy, unfortunately, I wake up in the mirror sometimes and say, what in the heck is going on? I'm getting older. I'm looking older. It's interesting. It's an interesting experience to be middle-aged and to feel that. So it can be terrifying. It can also be very powerful in our ability to sit and reflect about the power that AI has to transform us, to transform humanity, the collective, in a marvelous way. And that's my encouragement in the book, is to use AI as a forcing mechanism, so to speak. I might even say a divine, I'm saying in quotes, mechanism to help humanity remember who we really are and what reality really is. And then obviously, as we see that reflection, we get to decide whether we like what we see or not. And then from that, one of the most powerful parts of being human is that we get to choose. We get to choose to either double down on something that I call in the book the old game, this old game of division and greed and fear. Or if we want to try to reinvest in what I think is more true and more powerful, actually, which is our oneness, our unity as humans, and in love, which is really at the heart of, I believe, of existence and of what we're doing here. It's really easy, I understand, to forget that, to maybe not act out of our highest selves. But AI could be a powerful reflection to us in order to become more human, not less human. To me, AI is a call for us to rehumanize. And that is the tough work that we are grappling with now and working on now. That's the work before us. And we get to face it. We can run from it. We can bury our heads in the sand, or we can face it with as much ease, love, and grace is possible. And that's what I recommend we do.
I'm always so heartened when I hear other people speaking, because I also have a fairly spiritual approach and view of life, and that carries through in my work. And I also talk a lot about that human-centered, let's use technology to free us up to be more human. But it does strike me at this point that no one really knows which direction this is going to go in. And humans, if history repeats itself, if the past is a predictor of the future, there is a lot of concern and a lot of reasons to be concerned based on how humans have behaved in the past. So I too hope that there's enough people that are approaching AI from this perspective, educating others on that human-centered approach to AI, so that people do have that conscious choice. Because as humans, we often just kind of go in the direction that we see everybody else going in. So we've got this opportunity to kind of change the tide. And I'm very pleased. I can't wait to read your book to see how you've approached that. So to change tact a little bit, you've built and invested in companies worth over $5 billion, or I think you said $10 billion. But in the book, you, as you just said, you talk about walking away from the old game. So what does that look like to you now? What does success look like to you? And how has that changed maybe how you're doing business?
Yeah, it's a great question. I share a story in the book about sitting in an MBA class that I was in, and the professor asked a simple question to the class, or what should have been a simple question. And it was, clear your mind and think of the most motivating, what is motivating you right now? What is the scenario that motivates you the most? What is your biggest dream? It was a thought exercise, a brainstorming exercise. And I've always been a big dreamer as an entrepreneur, and I was excited for what I might see. And as my classmates started getting busy on their laptops with ideas, I sat fully blank and empty. And eventually what came to me were two kind of visions that I was not proud of. I grew up in a very conservative home, Christian background. And one of the visions was of like this wild party scene. I said, growing up in the 90s, I compare it to like a mashup of Yo MTV Raps and Cribs. I don't know if MTV is a thing in Australia. I assume it is, but it was kind of a mashup of that, like just a wild party scene, which, by the way, I had never experienced anything like that in my life as a conservative Christian growing up. And the other one, though, the other vision that came to me was actually more scary. And it's the answer, I think, to your question, or the thought that I had, which is I saw myself quietly closing my laptop, putting it in my bag, and walking out of the classroom and to the nearest airport, the Salt Lake City airport, which was just like 10 to 15 minutes away, and buying a one-way ticket to the furthest imaginable place possible and just disappearing from it all. That was scary. Maybe I would have come to Brisbane, Australia, which is a beautiful place, far away, not tell anyone. Leave my soulmate, Sally, who I dearly love, my 4 precious children, my business partners, the financial empire that I had built and was building, and just leaving it all. The point is, I think the true and persisting pandemic of our time is we have become human doings, clones in the machine, doing. Now, this is a fine line with AI, because like you said, we could outsource our agency or our quote unquote work to AI in some form or fashion. But AI can do a lot of things better than us. And my argument in the book is that's a blessing, because it frees us to be. We are human beings, Kate. We need to be, not do. And so as we outsource wisely some of our doing to highly intelligent machines, what is the work left for us? It's to be. It's to look inside, which is scary, which is hard, but it's to quiet our minds, to slow down, and to actually understand, again, who we are, what reality is, and to be, to sit in that and to be our best selves. So that's the thought that came to my mind as you asked that question, is that we need to be, not I have over indexed my entire life on doing and under indexed on being. I had until the governor's race. It's interesting. The governor's race is a statewide campaign in the United States. There's about 4 million people in the state of Utah. I was traveling all around the state. I lost. And in hindsight, this is about a year after I lost. It was a devastating, in some ways, public defeat. But I saw that as it kind of took me off the public stage and allowed me to get over, I'll say this, my addiction to doing, and allowed me to return to my being, which is powerful and can be powerful for each one of us individually and can be powerful for all of us collectively as humans.
So a lot of people would compartmentalize that and say, well, yes, that's your personal, not you, but that's a human's personal journey. How does that relate to business? So how do you bring those principles in for people in business? Because certainly people have got their own personal practice, their own religion or spirituality or ways of doing that inner reflection work and that slowing down and being more conscious. But how do you bring that into the work environment or into being a business leader in this age?
Yeah, the last book by a human, my book is broken up into four kind of sections, that follow technological disruption. And I also think it follows human disruption. I think those are mirrors of each other. So the first stage is disruption. The second stage is reflection. The third is transformation. And the fourth is evolution. So the book starts off, the first half of the book is kind of about personal disruption and transformation. And the second half of the book is about, there's a chapter on reforming religion, on, it's called A Vote for Humanity, but a chapter about reforming politics. And then there's a chapter about what I call conscious capitalism. So how do we bring this to business? I think that we're all, again, collectively and individually, on this very exciting, sometimes terrifying, hopefully fun adventure of this human experience, this hero's journey. So I think that all of us, including business leaders, are going to have an ample opportunity here in the age of AI to opt into a magnificent, crazy, scary hero's journey. This is what AI is calling us to our very human, heroic journey. So I outlined some steps in that chapter on conscious capitalism, incentivizing, and what I say, I'll try to just summarize it in a sentence. I think that if there are big winners and losers in AI, like if big tech controls AI, there just aren't some winners and losers. I think we all lose. We all lose in the end if this gets concentrated in big tech. So this is a call. The book is a call for individuals like you and I, and for big tech business leaders, for politicians, to reconsider the hero's journey that they are on and to take steps that will bring us back to a more collective effort in terms of our divine potential and the actual heroic journey that I think we are all on. These are not easy things, but this is like reconstituting capitalism, rethinking capitalism, and considering our ways in the age of highly intelligent machines. Again, I think if it plays out that there are a handful of winners and a lot of losers, we all will lose in this with AI. You're shaking your head. I think you agree as well. And so it's a scary proposition, but again, it's the mirror, the cosmic mirror is reflecting who we've become. And then it's time for us to take steps to change what we may see in the mirror.
Yeah, and we're seeing that play out day by day at the moment. You know, you see companies like Duolingo and Shopify and these huge multinational global companies who are coming out with these AI first statements, and they're saying no one will be hired unless you can prove that, you know, the job can't be done by AI first. And it's this race to, you know, it's all about the bottom line. How can we use this technology to replace people so that we make more money? There's something a little differently happening here in Australia. The race is not quite as, it's happening at a slower pace. And I think there is quite a lot of thoughtful dialogue amongst leaders here in Australia around, you know, that fork in the road. And do we use AI to replace humans and make it a financial and technology decision? Or do we come at it from that much more human perspective of how can we use the technology to do all the things that you're talking about, which is, you know, do the things technology is good at, but to free us up and be more human. Are you seeing that sort of, it seems like a fairly black and white decision for most people at the moment. There's not a lot of middle ground. So are you seeing that unfold? Are they the kind of conversations that you're also having with business leaders?
Yeah, I think that these are the types of conversations that are happening in every boardroom across America right now. Not only the boardrooms, I think in many political offices, and maybe even most importantly, around the dinner table with families. And so the question becomes, and the thesis of the book is, as our machines become more intelligent, humans must become more wise. So what does that look like? And how do we frame incentives? How do we create programs, frame incentives, and help humans flourish in the face of AI? And again, as you know, as an AI expert, this is a tall task. Let me maybe just talk about one. I could talk about two real quick. Number one, of course, job loss. There are going to be job losses. How do we deal with that? How do we reskill and upskill the human population in order to flourish in an age where machines are doing more of the work or mundane task work that humans are used to doing? Number one. Number two.
Can I add something just before we move to number two? Yeah. Something that strikes me as really obvious that I don't hear a lot of people talking about is we have a massive shortage of teachers and healthcare workers and people who are in those roles that are connecting human beings and human beings. And so it seems to me that there is a major opportunity right now that some of the mundane, repetitive tasks that will now be able to be done by AI, and if we're talking about freeing us up to be more human, there's sort of a natural progression there. Now, whether, you know, it's obviously not going to be that cut and dry and wrapped in a box with a bow. But it does strike me that some of the biggest challenges that we're facing are that real human to human connection. And this actually forces us to potentially address some of those issues.
Yeah, amen. If you talk to my wife was a second grade school teacher. That's her profession. And if you talk to any teacher or talk to any doctor, they would love to be freed up of the paperwork, mundane tasks, reporting, which AI can do now, do better, probably more accurately than humans. And that frees doctors and teachers, healthcare workers, other people up to do the most important work, which is human connection. And the second point I was going to make was about relationship. When our children and grandchildren are spending more time with their smartphones, with AI, with the almighty algorithm via social media platforms or whatever, than they are with other human beings, you have to wonder what relationships will look like in the future for humanity. And you have to have a desire, I think, and I'm saying this with like prayer hands, to like double down on investing in real human connection and community. We have to be committed to that, because when we can get anything we want, I'm putting in quotes, anything we want easily, without argument, without whatever, from AI, from a machine, why invest in messy human relationships, which are never cut and dry and easy like that? They come with real pain and heartache. But we do that because we are human. It's actually in the messiness where we find the beauty. It's in
that's
the
where growth comes from.
And that's where the growth and love, that's where love comes from. Through working out issues, through working through things, through understanding ourselves better. But I'm just telling you, our children and grandchildren, the future, is in peril if we don't double and triple down on human community and connection. And that's really the core of, by the way, of my chapter about reforming religion. I've been also a spiritual leader. I grew up Mormon, and have been a bishop, which is a lay, a non-paid leader of a local congregation of about 500 or so Latter-day Saints. I have the background as that, but my critique a little bit of my own faith tradition, as well as all faith traditions, or maybe I should say better, the call that I make in the book. Here's the question. In an age of highly intelligent machines that are vying for our attention, our time, you could say relationship, what special belief or practice should really stand in the way of human connection and community? And my argument in the book is nothing. The purpose, in my opinion, of religion is human connection and community. It's bringing people together in community and connecting us with the divine spark that resides in every single one of us. So it's time for us to sacrifice, let's say, our special beliefs at the altar of human progress and community. It's time for us to sacrifice our ego, our self-interest and egoic interest at the altar of what is better for humanity as a whole.
Wow,
so I'm getting a little passionate about this. Sorry.
I love the passion, and you've had such a fascinating mix of experiences that have led into where you are now, which is amazing. So, Jeff, as also a parent of children, and I'm 1 year ahead of you, so similar age. And as we start to wrap up and reflect on the things that we've talked about, if you look to the future and you see the best of what's possible, what is it that excites you about our future with AI, alongside AI, and how that may go for humanity? Small question, just to finish us off.
Yeah, let's just top it off with that. Well, if I could, because you spoke about children, I'll go back. I tell a little bedtime story in the book. I think it's in chapter 7 or so. And I think the title of the chapter is The All-Seeing Eye. And I tell a little bedtime story, which is about this all-seeing eye in the sky. that looked out into the void and can find nothing but itself. There was nothing else to see or be. And it was lonely. It wanted friends. It wanted companionship. It sought a reflection to help it understand itself. And so this all-seeing eye in the sky caused itself to forget, caused itself to fracture into an infinite number of conscious or intelligent pieces. And through that, it understood love. It understood itself. It understood that existence, although painful and harrowing, was good. It was good that it existed. And it wanted to exist, even though there was pain baked in. And so those fractured pieces sought a reflection of its own. Those are kind of humans, right? Sought a reflection of its own. And so they created technology, books, and good technology, books, and other things, bad technology, weapons of war, and other things to understand itself until it kind of created this ultimate technology, which is AI, which is a reflection of itself. I believe that the ultimate purpose of AI is to cause humanity to help remind us of who we are and what really is. And I believe at the heart of reality is beauty and love. And so in the grandest scheme, the grandest vision of things, like you said, Kate, to end on a high note, I think that AI can help us remember that collectively, can remind us of the heroic journey that we're really on, can bring us back to ourselves and help us realize that all division that we really see is an illusion. When I look into the face of another person, I see myself. I see God. And it's in remembering this individually and collectively where I think the most beautiful reality can be created, or the most beautiful existence, let's say, for the most people possible. And I think AI can help us do that. So not only obviously can it help us solve vexing problems like hunger and war and so many things via pattern recognition and amazing data analysis and all the technological things that it can do that we can't. It can see things that we can't see because it doesn't forget and everything else. But AI is not a technology problem, actually. I think that AI is a human challenge and problem, and one that, while scary, while it could be destructive, some things, no matter the outcome, Kate, I think you'd agree with this, deserve our best efforts. So I'm not here telling you what I think I know what the outcome is going to be here, or that I do know. I don't. But I'll tell you this, for you, Kate, for me, for your listeners, this deserves our best efforts, no matter the outcome. And I think the outcome could be glorious. I think it could be, quote unquote, heaven on earth, more unity, more love, less poverty, less medical issues, more, quote unquote, miracles. That's the big grand vision of what I think AI could help us remember and become. And so I think the opportunities are endless, but it's really not up to the AI to figure that out. It's up to us to work with AI in order to figure out these massive solutions through, vexing global problems that have been with us, as you've said, forever.
Oh, see, those are good goosebumps, Jeff, that I've got.
So, that is my goal today. Good goosebumps. Okay,
good goosebumps. And look, we're 100% aligned. That's also the vision I have for the future. And I think at the end of the day, it comes down to each and every individual's personal responsibility. And I think it's something we see a lot of, is people just blaming the tech companies, blaming the government, blaming humanity, rather than taking that real individual personal responsibility for how they use technology, how they choose to go forward at this time. And I feel like we could talk for days about this topic, and I'd love to talk again maybe in 12 months and reflect on where that journey's been. And so, Jeff, as we wrap up, where would you like people to connect with you? Where can they get your book that's coming out in August? Give people...
Well, that's nice of you. Yeah. Sorry, Kate. Yeah, that's really nice of you. Could I just say one thing? Amen to what you just said. But it's time to stop looking so much outside of ourselves and blaming this or that, and to look inside of ourselves and to take responsibility for where we're at and where we can go. Yeah, this is a message I'm passionate about. This is a book that's kind of come through me. And I'd love for people to check it out at my website, jeffburningham.com. That's burning like a ham.com, Jeff, Jeff, burningham.com. They can learn more about me there. They could buy my book there from anywhere, but it's for sale at every major publisher, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Walmart, Target, et cetera, et cetera. So go to wherever your favorite place to buy a book is and look for the last book written by a human. You can find it there. And let me know what you think, by the way. If anyone reads it, let me know your thoughts. And I'd love to have a conversation with you about the ideas in the book. This will take a global effort. It's going to be a big work, but I think we're built for this. We're built to do this. Now is our time, and I think we can make it happen.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for your time and wisdom today, Jeff. I've really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, thanks, Kate. It's good to get to know you.
Thank you for tuning in to the AI Grapple. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and colleagues and subscribe on your favourite podcast platform. We would love to hear your thoughts, so reach out with any questions or comments about the show. Until next time, keep grappling with AI and stay curious.